Welcome to ACT Fitness Radio, the podcast teaching you to aspire, conquer, and transform your body and mind. Here's your host, Adam Castro.
All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Adam Castro, and I'm here with Jaylene.
All right.
And you are listening to ACT Fitness Radio.
Yeah.
Whittier, California's #1 fitness podcast, bringing you the best fitness information that we can offer you to help you with your training in the gym and outside of the gym, of course. Today, we are going to be specific to training inside the gym, and we're going to talk about something that you learn from a very early age. When you went to school and you realized that Johnny had blonde hair and bright blue eyes, and he was lean and he was sexy and he was good with the ladies, and he worked in ASB, and you didn't, you might have realized that he may have been blessed with better genetics.
Wow, you're making me feel real good about myself right now. Real good.
Well, what is it for women? What is it for when you went to school and you kind of saw, like, who was the sexy girl who might have been blessed with godlike genetics?
You know what? It's really funny, but I never legitimately thought about the way my body looked or the way other girls' bodies looked until maybe 7th, 8th grade, like when we really started having pool parties and stuff. I mean, I went to pool parties in elementary school, but I didn't care about any of that. Literally, for me, it was all about the face, the hair, and the eyes. Like, I determined a girl's beauty based off of those things, like not really her body or anything like that. And believe it or not, I didn't even care about those things or look at those things until other girls brought them to my attention.
Well, before we even get into like the specifics of lifting and the specifics of like the body traits, because you're right, I think at a young age you don't really notice the body traits so much as you notice like how popular someone is or how well they communicate with the opposite sex, or how well they communicate with adults. Adults end up liking, I think, the kids who communicate better. And
I also identified a girl as pretty based off of like how her makeup looked on her. I know that sounds really weird, but like you can be either really good at bringing out your features or really bad at bringing out your features.
Based on their skill set, you know, their skill.
Yeah. The ability to properly apply mascara, sure.
We're seeming really shallow right now, but we're not. Trust me.
These are legit what I thought about.
When I was growing up, at least, I was always a very shy child. I didn't really like to talk to people too much. If people were making fun of me or talking mean to me or whatever, I didn't really fight back. I didn't defend myself. Like, I was not a type A kind of person, and I wasn't very athletic at all. I wasn't fit, and so I did kind of look up to those athletic, fit, charismatic, always good with the girls. Like, those are the kind of guys that I kind of wanted to be like. I just never. I never ended up being like that. No, but it's really cool to see how some people just kind of have that or are raised in an environment to be that way, and they thrive. They thrive in that kind of environment. Those are the people who end up taking the opportunities that are available. I could have signed up for ASB, but I didn't feel like I was worthy to be close to leadership in at a young early age.
Oh, same. Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah, for sure.
And I think even because you were involved with acting at a young age, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just, I was involved with acting and like musical theater and stuff from a young age, but I was just involved in, how do I say, like artsy type sports. So like cheerleading and dance and baton twirling, and I played the violin and I did theater, and so I was never like, when you're when you're in elementary school and you're in cheerleading, like and I can't speak on behalf of every child, but like you're not really thinking about how athletic somebody is. Like it's all about how cute you are. It's all about like how much energy you have. It's all about a really good dance routine that's been set up. Just a really good routine in general. And like I was envious of other people's skill sets for sure, but I cannot recall ever having insecurities about myself. Like I never thought that I was less than by the way that I looked, right? Until like another kid would like make fun of, like somebody said you could like land a plane on my forehead. So like then I started thinking about how I have a big forehead, and like I just never thought about, I would compare myself to other people in skill sets, sure.
So, and what about because I was in production choir in my high school year, and I think it wasn't until high school that I went away from this. But did you ever feel like if someone looked better than you, and even if they didn't act better or dance better or sing better, like if they looked better than you would be like, yeah, they should get the part, like
no.
Okay.
No, definitely not. I was never like that. I mean,
what about if they did sing or dance better?
Then, well, I mean, I really do think that this is like in the blood of maybe everyone who's in like the musical theater and acting realm. Like it's your responsibility to be better than them. Like I never saw them as it's kind of sad in a way. Like I was never encouraged or like proud of somebody for being better than me. I was always like, you're better than me? Well, then I need to be better than you. So yeah, I was never like, oh,
very
good for you. Good job. Yeah. Super competitive. Yeah.
Which can sometimes turn, you can't change that you have a really good connection with your body. Unless, I mean, you could change that. You don't want to change that. I'll tell you that right now. You don't want to change that. But these are all aspects of your strengths and weaknesses that someone else may want from you.
Yeah.
That big and bulky girl who you may look up to because she's really, really strong. Maybe she's wanting that thigh gap that you have, those skinny legs that you have. And she'll just never get it because her body's just not built that way. I mean,
the phrase, you can't fix or don't fix what isn't broken, has some truth to it, to some degree.
Exactly. And so when we've already taken into account what our strengths and what our weaknesses are. And we know how to build up our weaknesses. We know how to build up our strengths. But we also talked about how it may not all work out the same way that you picture in your mind.
Yeah.
When you are focusing on building up your weaknesses, when you are adding more sets, when you are adding more volume, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to change your biological genetics and change the whole structure of your body.
Yeah.
It is only going to be adjusted. A short person through their training will not necessarily turn into a tall person. Someone who has stick legs is not necessarily going to turn themselves into a Beyonce or Demi Lovato through their training.
Right.
Likewise with a guy, you're not going to get the Michael Phelps V if you are a blocky powerlifting style kind of looking guy. Through your training, you can adjust, you can get closer to that, but it's not going to just happen. And you have to go through the process of accepting that.
Yeah.
Accepting that. You need to become the healthiest version of you. And when you continue to fight and fight and fight against who you are, like we talked about being able to have a certain amount of fast twitch muscle fibers and slow twitch muscle fibers. So meaning when you have fast twitch muscle fibers, you are able to squeeze that muscle very, very quickly at an explosive rate, and boom, you're able to gather it and squeeze, and boom, much power, much strength. It's awesome for that. Slow twitch muscle fibers, however, definitely less explosiveness, more of that consistent endurance style muscular structure. better for endurance runners. And so if you have the majority of your muscles being a slow twitch muscle fiber grouping, you're going to be better at endurance running, or endurance sports.
Yeah.
If you have more fast twitch muscle fibers, you're most likely going to be better at those explosive strength kind of sports. And as much as you want to be in the top, 10% of athleticism in the muscle group area that you may not have, it's probably going to be better for you to just go ahead and focus on what you are geared to do, what your genetics are gearing you to do.
Do those things change? Can fast twitch muscle fibers and slow twitch muscle fibers change?
So you can develop more of a certain twitch muscle fiber grouping by obviously focusing on that. So let's say I have a baseline amount of fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers, and I do a lot of endurance running. I do a lot of endurance training. I'm definitely going to obviously grow in endurance style training and grow in those endurance style muscles at a faster rate than those explosive strength and power kind of muscle groupings. However, if I'm trying to think of the big picture, what would be more valuable to me in the grand scheme of things? Well, I'd probably end up performing better if I were to have spent that time focused on building explosive strength muscle fibers rather than the endurance. I would be a better athlete. So you take someone who has more fast twitch muscle fibers than they have slow twitch muscle fibers, and they've got the option of either becoming a baseball player or a triathlon runner or something like that. Well, if they have more fast twitch and they decide, I'm going to just go ahead and train for a triathlon, they're less likely to be in the top 10% of athletes in that than they are to be top 10% athletes of baseball playing.
But these are genetic, right? So like regardless of your athleticism, you have either slow twitch muscle fibers or fast twitch muscle fibers.
No, not one or the other. It's going to be everybody's kind of made up of a little bit of both.
Okay.
And so you're going to have a certain amount of both. You do have a certain amount of explosiveness. You do have a certain amount of endurance to you. It's just a matter of how much do you have.
And so these muscle fibers can be manipulated, right? Depending on what you're doing. Like let's say you're a swimmer when you're younger, but then you develop and do something else as you grow older.
Well, I mean, somebody will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you ever get rid of muscle fibers unless you are unless you get muscle fibers cut off of you or something like that. You can build upon those muscle fibers. You can make those muscle fibers stronger. You can grow new muscle fibers in that sense, but you are going to have you're not going to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? You're not going to be able to turn one muscle fiber into another one. I can't turn my fast twitch muscle fibers into slow twitch muscle fibers.
Yeah. Or vice versa. I just mean manipulate it like growing, right? Like you're either improving upon it or you're not.
Yeah, exactly. You're either going to improve upon it or you're not. And so if I'm not trying to work on a specific type of muscle grouping, then of course I'm not going to excel at it.
Yeah.
So the person who's trying to be a triathlon runner, but only works out in strength and explosive training is not going to be a good triathlon racer. Sorry.
Sure.
They're not going to be able to do that as well as if they had focused on that endurance style training.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of genetics. Like you need to make sure that you figure out for yourself what are you good at. What are the things that you kind of find that you are able to excel at. And we talked about in the last episode, I have found that even though I would love to be super strong, even though I'd love to be a power lifter, I find that I do a lot better with endurance style training. I'm able to keep going. I just am able to put my head down and just go, go, go. Whereas with strength training, I gas out really easily. I can actually get anxiety if I go up to a really heavy weight and I psych myself out too much. I don't recover well after lifting super heavy. I've even gotten sick after hitting PRs because my body just does not like to be fried in that way. And so I still need to be strong. Like, I still need to work those muscle fibers.
Yeah, totally.
It's just a matter of, okay, what kind of sport would be best for me, knowing that I do better with the endurance style of training. And that allows me to be able to push myself 100% in what I know I'm better at. And that is an example of listening to your genetics and doing what you are going to be good at based off of your genetics. And then we talked about, targeting muscle weaknesses in the last episode. Genetics plays a huge role in that. If you have genetics to have big shoulders and a small waist and small lower body, you're probably not going to have the strongest legs. And so if you want to build on that, then you need to do the things that we talked about in the last episode. And then if you have no shoulders at all and really, really thick waist and really big legs, you're probably going to be really strong in the lower body and not so strong in the upper body. It's just a matter of, looking at your body and seeing what is developing easily and what is not. And obviously men versus women, right? Men versus women. Men are generally going to build muscle a heck of a lot easier than women, generally. And women, it's going to be a little bit harder to build muscle. It's going to be a little bit harder to get strong. But those are all just generalizations there. I'm not saying that, you put 100 guys in line next to 100 girls, you're going to see that the guys are probably going to be stronger. But there may be one really skinny, scrawny guy in the line who grew up always skinny and scrawny and not very strong, not very connected to his body. And then you're going to get that girl on the other side who looks like Ronda Rousey and has this is just an explosive powerhouse and can lift just as much as one of the other guys in the line on the other side. So totally. If not more than some of them. And that's okay. These are just kind of, you need to know what are your specific genetics in helping you to perform at the sport that you are trying to perform at, and then deciding, is that even the sport that I should be pushing myself in? Because if I'm pushing at 100% and I know I'm not going to be in the top 10% of that kind of athlete, what is the sport that I could push myself at in 100% and be among the elites of that kind of sport? And when you do find that out, I think that you're going to be way more fulfilled in what you do, way more fulfilled in your training. Things are going to make sense. And now let's even transition into nutrition. Nutrition. Genetically, people are going to be responding to nutrition in different ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We've talked about how some people are going to respond to salt and sodium differently based off of their ancestors. In some regions of the world where sodium is plentiful, they're going to respond differently to sodium than in some other regions of the world where it was scarce, and their bodies respond differently to that.
Your ethnicity, right? Like, literally your race accounts for what types of food you can eat, what types of food you can't eat. Some people just respond really well to other types of food. That is also, again, based upon, like, what area the majority of your family comes from, or not even just the majority, but, like, let's say you have 5 different types of races in you. Well, you're more than likely going to respond really well to all of those different types of food. And that's not indefinitely, but more than likely.
We wouldn't know what the outcome is in that sense for you. Because, if you do have multiple lines of ancestry in your body that all respond to certain foods differently, then what is the trait that you ended up picking up?
Yeah, right.
How is your body going to respond to certain? And so we don't really know. Like, we don't really know until you go out and kind of do an elimination diet and you decide for yourself what foods affect you in what ways.
But it just wouldn't be surprising. Like for example, the majority of my bloodline is Italian. And I love Italian food. Like even if I go away from it, but I didn't pre-tell myself because you're Italian, you have to love Italian food. No, I just really like Italian food, Yeah.
And I think that's why too. This is why it's so important to not just have some sort of cookie cutter diet for clientele and for people. Like even when you are trying to set a structure, it needs to be breathable. It needs to be changeable. It needs to have options. It needs to not just be chicken breast and broccoli. It needs to have more diversity than that. It needs to account for all the things that we've been talking about.
Right.
Not everyone is going to respond to the ketogenic diet the same way. Mm-hmm. Not everyone is going to respond to, a low-fat diet, a high-carbohydrate, a paleo, a vegan diet. Like, not everyone is going to be responding the same way. And that's why it's so important not to just be so dogmatic and put yourself in those boxes. Like, you have to listen to your genetics.
Absolutely, yeah. Listening to your body is extremely important, but we can't do that when we turn off all of the triggers, right? Our body has natural triggers and things that it's trying to tell us, but we so often suppress those things and ignore those triggers, and then we're at a loss for how to come back to finding out what we were originally supposed to eat or originally what kind of intolerances we did have and things like that.
What kind of triggers are you talking about?
Things like brain fog, upset stomach, bad trips to the restroom, hives, huge eczema,
swelling,
rashes. There's just loads of things.
Loss of hair.
Sure, yeah, hair loss, absolutely. Skin discoloration.
Those are all like triggers and signals that the body is telling you that, hey, maybe the food that you've been eating is not the best food for you.
I would even say your teeth and your tongue are a great indicator too, and your eyes. Your eyes can change colors. They can be more glossy, less glossy. Your hair can be more shiny, less shiny. Your nails can be brittle. They can break really easily. Your skin, right? There are so many signs.
And you've got to know the balance. What is you just simply not giving your body tools that it needs to have a healthy body? And what is you putting into your body something that it just does not want to accept, something that it may have an intolerance to, something that it just doesn't like? Maybe Johnny was on a diet and he gave you, you're like, hey, Johnny, what are you eating to get so fit and what gets so healthy? And then you get Johnny's meal plan and you try it out and you don't get lean and chiseled the same way that Johnny did. Well, that's because you are not Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not Sally. You're not, the other people. You need to find something that works for you, which is why when we give nutritional advice, a lot of the time we're going to either give a ongoing conversation with our clients, or we'll give them a sheet of paper that is not going to be just this, and this. It's going to provide options because we know the importance of trying different things and knowing how it affects the body.
Yeah.
And that is even something that goes even deeper, goes even further down a line of discovery in saying what micronutrients affect you in what ways, at what time of the day, that's a journey that you'll have to take and that you'll have to listen to your body through. Yeah. But ultimately your genetics are going to determine that. And it will separate you from other people, men to women, women to men, someone who is trying to build muscle and is really good at it, and someone who's trying to build muscle and is really bad at it.
Yeah.
Someone who is trying to be an endurance athlete and is really good at it, and someone who's trying to be an endurance athlete and is really bad at it. And like we talked about last episode, someone who's trying to build a big booty but may just be given genetics where their butt is as flat as can be.
Right.
And you know what? Adjustments can be made. Progress can be made. You can definitely build your booty no matter what your genetics are, but it just might not look exactly how you want it to.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that. You have to accept that. If you have always been someone who's really, really tiny and small, and you've always wanted to be this big, strong person, you have to accept that is who you are, and you can adjust that. You can be a big, strong version of you, but it just may not look like the other person that you have, as your Instagram, crush or whoever, that person that you look up to that you want to be like. I've seen multiple times now women who are starting off their fitness journey, and they'll find some like CrossFit girl, or find some bodybuilding athlete or runner or somebody who, or even just a celebrity who looks really sexy or something, and they'll be like, oh, I want to look like her one day. That's why I'm working out, because I want to look exactly like her.
Yeah.
You are not her. You're just not her. And you'll never look exactly like her.
Right.
And we obviously can see that. You're not going to have her eyes, her nose, her mouth, her cheeks, her hair, like all those things, especially if you have curly hair, she has straight hair. You have blonde hair, she has black, or whatever. But it plays out in the body as well. You're never going to have that exact figure.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that.
That's our biggest struggle, right? We want what everyone else has. We always want what someone else has, and we don't want what we have, and then somebody wants what we have, and it's an endless cycle. It's
an endless cycle. Just try to be the healthiest, strongest version of you. For men too, you may want that big old wide chest and wide shoulders and big arms and skinny waist and chiseled legs and everything, and calves the size of your biceps or whatever. But genetically, it may not just be in the cards for you to have all those things, and that's okay. That is totally okay. You've got different strengths in you. You've got different aspects to your body that are great. You may actually be stronger than any of those guys, and that is great. Like, you have to be the strongest, healthiest version of you, and maybe even the most aesthetically. Or maybe the most aesthetic version of you. Like, if you are trying to go for bodybuilding and you know that those aren't strengths that you have, just work on what you can. Yeah. You go up to your own potential. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't expect to be something that you're not. And you have to accept that and be okay with that, and know that you are just striving to be the best version of yourself, and that is okay.
Yeah, that has to be enough. It absolutely has to be enough.
Because otherwise, you're going to be going into the gym constantly dissatisfied, always wanting more, always not feeling good enough, looking in the mirror, thinking that you'll never ever be at your goal, because guess what? You won't. And it's going to drive you to insanity and drive you to do things that you shouldn't do, like taking anabolic steroids, or by getting injections in certain areas that you shouldn't be getting injections, or breast implants where you shouldn't be getting breast implants, and creating a fake version of yourself just for the sake of getting that image when it's not really you. It was never you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So, I do hope this episode was helpful, and this is honestly a very deep topic that we've kind of had with a lot of clients, and sometimes it gets to an emotional level.
There's just so much to unpack from conversations like these.
Yeah, we've had clients cry saying that they've tried so hard to be a certain way, and they thought that they had to, especially when you see someone who's trying to lose weight. The first step in their weight loss doesn't need to be the weight loss of body fat. It needs to be the weight loss of the pressure that they put on themselves to get their bodies to look a certain way.
Right.
They need to take that pressure off of themselves. They just need to focus on being healthy, taking those small steps in the right direction, and staying on that course. Because otherwise, you're just going to be dissatisfied, unhappy with yourself, and never getting anywhere, never ever getting anywhere, and not loving your body, that is you trying not to be you and being someone else is not the journey of loving your body. That is just you hating who you are and hating what your body looks like and wanting it to be someone else, when you should be focused on trying to love your body, accept your body, and make the adjustments that you want to make. You know, you can obviously you can try to lose weight, and you can try to get stronger, you can try to get leaner, you can do all of those things, absolutely, and we are here to help you do that. But we also don't want you to be fooled into thinking that that you are not who you are.
No, just be your best self, and again, be okay with that.
Your best self now. Isn't that a book or something?
I think so.
No, but in all honesty, yes. Don't chase other people. Don't chase other people and what they look like. Look at yourself in the mirror. Be happy with who you are. Know what your strengths are. Know what your weaknesses are. Know what your genetics are, and just work on it. Work with what you got. And you will
shake what your mama gave you.
Yeah, dance a little bit and have fun with yourself. and you will lose body fat, and you will gain strength, and you will have the proportion size of what your genetics are, and you can adjust that a little bit in the gym, and you're going to create a product that is you.
Yeah.
Free of outside pressure and all of the other crap that maybe the fitness industry has placed on you, the pressure that the fitness industry has placed on you to be a certain way. You do not need that. Okay, you do not need that. So those are just all the ways that genetics will be affecting you in the gym, and you can use them to your advantage. And you can learn from them, you can listen to them, and you can know what you're up against when you're trying to look at what your weaknesses are and what you can adjust, and maybe know where you have to fight a little bit harder. These are all things that are taken into consideration when you should be thinking about the kind of program that you are trying to go through when you go into the gym. And ACT Fitness Academy is absolutely here to help. So if you have any questions about any of the things that we've talked about in this episode, please either go over to our Instagram at ACT Fitness Academy, send us a message, ask us your questions. If you want to work with us, then all you got to do is ask. And then if you'd like, you can go to our website, www.actfitnessacademy.com, and you can learn all about us. You can get more free resources.
And if you did like today's podcast, go ahead and subscribe so you can be updated on future podcasts and all of the ongoings with ACT Fitness Radio and Academy. And be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review. Tell your friends, tell your family, let everybody know we're here.
Until next time, guys, you take care.
Bye.